Welcome to Business Accelerants Memos with me, Paul Menig. We plan to accelerate your success by listening to the triumphs and challenges of other middle market leaders of manufacturing, technology, and transportation businesses. Today's podcast is going to highlight the equipment onboard vehicles and offboard vehicles to improve safety. It's brought to you by the Transportation Safety Equipment Institute. As part of our spring meeting, one of the things that I came across that I thought would be very interesting to us is a slightly different view of the problems with light in the world. We've been trying to deal with glare. We've been trying to deal with headlights that get into the eyes of people and have advanced technology to avoid it. But I came across this organization that Ruskin Hartley runs called Dark Sky. And it was intriguing to me because in Hawaii, they have rules for lighting in order to make it possible to see the sky because of the observatories there, maybe for other reasons. And I thought this would be interesting and give us some additional thoughts on the pollution that we are causing with all of the vehicles that we're operating, the airplanes, the airports, school buses, and everything else. So, Ruskin, I'll leave it to you to introduce yourself, begin to share and do a presentation, and then we'll spend a little bit of time with Q&A.
Well, Paul, I appreciate the invitation to join you and share a little bit about the Dark Sky One, this concept car we launched at the Detroit Auto Show. So the opening question as we started to think about this initiative was, how do we get the world to care about dark skies? Well, at first we thought, well, we could ask everyone to go and change out their light bulb. That's a simple step. It actually helps make a difference in the world. But, we rejected that idea as it was not going to get attention. It had been done. We weren't going to get the sort of energy and engagement that we needed. We really felt the need that we needed to get people's attention. And how do we do that? We wanted people to turn their heads. We wanted to start conversations around how we can reclaim the night. And the concept we came up with was to launch the concept car, the Dark Sky One.
To evolve is not just to survive or to adapt. To evolve is to ascend, breaking through to a new frontier, beyond the light. Introducing the Dark Sky One, built for darkness.
The whole concept here was to sort of reframe the way that we think about natural darkness and the critical role that lighting design plays in protecting that. So what about the night, right? We believe that the night is actually a vital natural environment. And yet the modern night has been radically transformed over the last 100 years. In many instances, it's now as bright as day around some of the cities, like here's Las Vegas, or in places like Dubai or Times Square. And today, light pollution is a global issue. In fact, most people around the world do not experience a natural night. You can see it in this map of the globe at night where the light pollution is. And in fact, light pollution is doubling every 8 years. It's growing at about 10% per year globally. So how do we get here? Right? The light bulb for many is a symbol of innovation, but it's got a lot cheaper. It's got a lot brighter. And now we can light almost any place on Earth as bright as we want to. Light is just too bright, it's too broad in spectrum, it's too blue, and it's on for too long. But why does the night matter? Right? The night matters for nature, for health, for climate, and culture. The natural world, the night really is a critical ecosystem. And many of the planet's species rely on natural darkness. 90% of amphibians, 69% of mammals, 30% of birds are active at night. Natural darkness is essential for our well-being as well. Our bodies crave natural darkness. We need it to support healthy circadian rhythms for sleep and well-being. And when we illuminate the night, when no one's around in particular, we're wasting light, we're wasting energy, we're wasting carbon. And the solutions to this are immediate and within hand. Natural darkness is also a critical part of culture and heritage. It is our oldest connection around the planet. Darkness supports tradition, it supports ceremony, it supports navigation, and it's a place of great meaning, as well as a place that we're literally exploring our place in the universe with the astronomy world. Now, the good thing about light pollution is that it has simple fixes with immediate benefits. Here's one example from a project we did recently in the Permian Basin in New Mexico and in Texas. This is an oil and gas facility. Here's a bank battery farm where they separate the gas and the oil and the water that they're pumping out of the ground. On the left is the classic way that that's been illuminated. Each of those bright spots is a floodlight that's on all night, illuminating both the workspace, but critically pointing directly up into the sky. And you can see it's creating vast areas of light there, way beyond what's needed. It's also creating shadows. We worked with the oil and gas industry there with some simple changes. We tilted the lights down. We illuminated to the right levels. We warmed them up a little bit, and we were immediately able to achieve a 99% reduction in sky glow, 60% reduction in annual energy use. We created a safer visual environment with no additional upfront costs. We did this by following what we call the 5 principles for responsible outdoor light at night, the Roland principles. Before we add a light, we think about what is the purpose? What is the use for this light? Are we targeting it down on the ground where it's needed? Are we using lower light levels because our eyes can adapt? Are we controlling it so it's on when it's needed, off when no one's around, and maybe dimmed when there's fewer people around? And are we using warmer colors like candlelight, as opposed to the bright, harsh blue-white of the midday sun? Now, as we started to develop the Dark Sky One, we realized that actually a lot of these principles actually applied to cars and vehicles. Now, it's very clear that vehicle headlights are critical, that they serve an incredibly useful purpose as we're navigating around at night. So clearly they pass the first principle. But as Paul alluded to in his introduction, increasingly people are concerned about the glare that are coming from these headlights as they're getting ever brighter. In fact, there's growing calls around the world for action on this. A couple of years ago, the UK government launched a review into glaring headlights. And in fact, just a few days ago, the Canadian government has launched an inquiry asking people across Canada to submit their experience with vehicle headlights and glare at night. So there's clearly growing global interest in this problem particular. Now, headlights clearly are getting brighter and they are getting bluer. This is a graph from a paper from 2018 on the top. It's showing how over time headlights are generally getting brighter. This is back in the, when is that? Back in the 70s, back to the thousands. And you can also see how the technology is changing. And this is the spectral power distribution. Here's the CCT. And in general, over time, the modern headlights are getting much bluer with higher CCT than the historically older lights. We also know that these vehicle headlights have a couple unique things in them that separate them from other forms of light pollution. One is something called the temporal dynamics. This is essentially a graph that scientists went out and measured the pulses, the temporal flashes of light along roadway verges in the UK. And you can see that there are in fact very intense flashes of bright light that are pulsing along those verges. These lights also have vast spatial extent. In the US, 20% of land area is within 127 meters of a roadway, and there are some forecasts by between 2030 and 2050, there's an expectation that the road network will grow by 25 million kilometers around the world. So roads and vehicle headlights on them, we're increasingly beginning to realize are having a much greater impact on light pollution than we were ever previously considered. And in fact might outstrip the impact of streetlights in many instances. And so for us, this meant that the Dark Sky One started to move beyond being a pure concept car to get people's attention to a real vehicle, to have a conversation and dialogue with the vehicle industry about the impact of their design. In fact, the Dark Sky One was designed by some leading concept car designers by the Fiero group. It is a real concept car. No, you cannot drive it yet, but it's a real concept car with real technology built into it, intended to both minimize its impact on light, on glare and impact on the natural world around it, and also create a better experience for the drivers so that they can appreciate the nighttime that they're driving through. For instance, intelligent LiDAR-driven headlights. As you're driving up to maybe a T intersection and there's a house opposite the intersection, well, that beam doesn't need to go as far, so you can start to reduce the intensity and the output of that light based upon the speed that you're driving and the distance that's needed, as one example. The car also looked at how you could optimize reflections coming into the driver and the side lights on it. The matte black paint is designed to reduce the specular reflection that can come onto a car and actually blind the driver. So there are real technology that has been built into this concept car that we are challenging the industry to take a close look at. And beyond that, we also started to think about, at a larger perspective, some of the challenges that we see overall in terms of the impact that roadways lighting and vehicle headlight lighting is having. We believe that there need to be some reasonable limits established on the output of these lights. We cannot afford to have a race with ever brightening lights getting bluer and brighter over time, when we know from vision science that there's often no need for that. We also need to look at smart lighting for safer roads, using adaptive technology to ensure that the driver can see and minimizing the impact on the actual environment. Look at using warmer tones for better vision. We're not suggesting putting amber headlights in, but do you really need a 5,000 Kelvin light? We know from vision science in roadways that 4,000 Kelvin is often the sweet spot. We need to think about our road networks in planning for natural darkness as well. And in all of this, we need to be following where the science is based. And our goal in all of this is to really look at restoring the night, restoring balance, and doing that in a way that honors people's ability to get around and navigate safely at night whilst allowing the natural world to survive. And in closing, I just want to acknowledge the individuals and the companies that made the Dark Sky One and this campaign possible. Brain Co. were the lead creative agency on this. 6degrees.org brought us together with Brain Company, and Fiaro were the concept car designers. So thank you, Paul. I hope this triggers some interesting dialogue and exchange, and we look forward to continued engagement with the lighting, with the vehicle community around the design of their cars and their headlights. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruskin. Fabulous. I did not realize when we first talked that there was a concept car. What can you tell us about Fiaro? When you said that, I was thinking of a different company.
Fiaro's, I think they're a Japanese and LA-based concept car designer. They've done work for Cadillac, for Toyota, and others. So they're one of the leading companies out there. So when Peter Bray, who came up with this concept, and he'd previously done work for BMW, for instance, in the US, so he had connections with the industry. He reached out and actually got interest from a couple concept car companies who wanted to be part of this, to volunteer their time to help us tell this story and get the attention of people around the world.
You mentioned one scientific item that said people adapt. Now, certainly, when you get into a dark room, your pupils dilate in order to take in greater light and stuff. But out on the road with all the other lights like they showed in Las Vegas, I'm not sure we have that adaptation. And I'm a little concerned that people with problems with their eyes, with cataracts, people as they get older, may not have the same capability of adaptation that you were mentioning. So what more can you tell us about that?
Well, I think my sense, again, I'm not an expert on vehicle headlights, right? I'm not an expert on that. I know enough about roadway lighting and outdoor lighting and my time with Dark Sky. So, but what I do know is that every single situation is unique, right? So, when you're on the strip in Las Vegas, the environment is very different. It's a relatively bright environment with all those billboards, compared to if you're out in Death Valley. Now, the reality is, for a vehicle driving from one to the other, the headlights do not adapt. They run the same way in Death Valley as they run on the strip in Las Vegas. But our technology is smarter now. The car knows where it is. It should be able to adapt the headlights to the setting it is. Again, we're not saying remove the headlights. That would be crazy, right? But we are saying let's use modern technology to adapt them. to your point about adaptation, when you're out in a naturally dark environment, say you're taking a hike out in Death Valley and a car comes around the corner, well, your eyes will be dark adapted, and when that light hits you, you will be blinded temporarily.
Yeah.
You will not active driver, versus if you're in the strip in Las Vegas, your adaptation state will be very different.
So there are two existing types of adaptation that are going on that you may or may not be familiar with. The first is that you can have automatic high beams, and
Yeah.
if there's a sensor detects that it's dark outside, the high beams will automatically come on. If it senses an oncoming vehicle or more light from traffic and lighting, it'll turn them off. The other, which is a legal requirement in Europe, is adaptive driving beams, which rotates the beam to keep it out of the eyes of a driver of incoming traffic. It's sort of allowed here in the United States. There's, if I understand right, there are two companies that are providing it, but the test protocol is a very difficult one. Are you familiar with those two
Yeah,
adaptations?
I drive a car. I mean, here in the US that has adaptation. I don't flick the beams off, but it knows if a vehicle's
Yeah.
coming to knock out that section, so it's not blinding
Okay.
them. And my understanding is, yeah, that this technology exists in Europe, and when it was the statutes were adopted in the US, it was sufficiently different that it made it difficult to just import
Yeah.
what was been working perfectly well in Europe. Like somehow America, we want to do it differently, but
Now
yeah.
you
I mean,
suggested a third adaptation that I don't recall anybody talking about, which would be light output dependent on speed.
Yeah, yeah. I think light output depending on speed and depending on the context, right? If I'm stuck in traffic on the 405 in Los Angeles, which I have been at night, I don't need much light at all, right, to be able to see because I'm going 3 miles an hour if I'm lucky. If I'm out in a remote part of California or driving up to Las Vegas on the freeway and it's night and it's dark and I'm going 75, my beams need to go a long way. If I come into a city, even if my high beams drop down, my speed of travel is less, therefore my stopping distance and I need to see further down the road is less. So in theory, as I understand it, you should be able to reduce the output to manage what our vision distance is. And I think the other area of the adaptation, like we clearly want people to be able to see hazards coming in from off the road, be that a child or an animal coming off, but we need to also be thinking about the adaptation in terms of these natural areas alongside the road, and yeah, making sure that we have enough to see, but not enough to do ecological harm in those areas.
So it's interesting. We already stop the engine in many applications called start stop in order to save fuel. Some people like it, some people don't. But the idea that you turn the headlights off when you're stuck at a light or waiting for a train never occurred to me. And so that's an interesting possibility. One other thing that you just mentioned, animals and things, and there's a lot of work that goes on with automatic driver assistance systems using radar and LiDAR, which are different frequencies that we can't
Yeah.
see. Um, would it be better, do you think, or could we talk to somebody in the future where there would be some way of substituting non-visible light for visible light, and it could be converted in the dash or in a um, screen that would show what's actually out there?
Yeah, so that's a great concept. Like Dark Sky One is designed as a high performance, basically supercar to get people's attention. So
Yeah.
this is a car you're going to want to drive. I think Peter even said it has a V10 or something like this. So it's not even an electric car. It's designed as a vehicle to drive and get people's attention. We're the driver, we need to be able to see. As we look ahead, if we get to it, like Dark Sky 2 will be a fully autonomous vehicle. A fully autonomous vehicle doesn't necessarily need to rely on visual light to see. LiDAR, various infrared bands can actually be much more efficient, much more effective way of navigating and understanding its place and avoiding hazards than visible light. So it's just like we need to start to think differently as we're redesigning these vehicles. Yes, the vehicle, you need to be able to see the vehicle, so you'd need some running lights, some way to see it, but the vehicle itself wouldn't necessarily need to be blasting light far down the road when it was being run in autonomous mode.
Yeah, we that brought up another thought to me because we spend some time discussing the fact that what our eyes see is different from what a camera sees. So even if we have a forward-looking camera for a variety of reasons in a vehicle, it is seeing something a little bit different than the human eye because it processes light differently and sees it differently. So there might be a way, especially with autonomous driving systems, to optimize the light output for the camera on those types of vehicles rather than optimizing it for the light
Yeah.
of a human. Hadn't
Yeah,
thought of
and I
that.
think and even those cameras will be blinded by glare, right? So
Oh,
the
yes.
camera will be blinded by glare, whether that is the glare from the sun as it sets, or whether it's from an oncoming headlights, right? Again, I mean, I drive the vehicle I drive also will drive me around, right? I can push a button and it will take me places, and it's doing it through those visual sensors. And yes, I have to pay attention, but I have noticed that because the camera's a wider space, it has a bigger perspective on what's going on than my eyes that are this far apart. And again, I just think it's a challenge for us to think about using the principles of good design to design vehicles that are clearly safe, but also design vehicles that protect the natural environment and the natural world.
So, Ruskin, as we finish here, how can somebody reach out to you if they want to learn more or they want to become a partner with Dark Sky?
So our website is darksky.org, and our site for Dark Sky Motors, Dark Sky One is darksky motors.org. They both direct to the same place, and there you can follow us for more information and reach out. I'm happy to connect via LinkedIn, and we'd love to have some conversations with people in the vehicle industry, understand what they're thinking about as they look down the road, and look for opportunities to collaborate to provide vehicles that are beautiful, that people want to buy, that function well, and also protect the natural world around us.
Okay. Thanks again, Ruskin. It's been great having you here. You've heard the challenges, the triumphs, and/or the tools and strategies. Now it's time to apply them. Thanks for joining us on Business Accelerance Memos. For show notes and more tools designed for middle market leaders, visit us at www.businessaccelerance.com. Until the next dispatch, keep your momentum high and continue to accelerate your success.